welcome to the Intuitively Wild podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Levine. Living intuitively wild is about coming back home to ourselves. Here we talk about how to live connected to ourselves, others, and nature, and make a commitment to radical authenticity, vulnerability, and acceptance. On this podcast, we delve into a wide range of topics that span the human experience. We peel back the layers and talk about the things that are often not talked about. This is a space for us all to walk and wander this path of life together. Let's dig into our roots and go deep. I am so excited about today's podcast. Today, I am joined by Victoria Shumulinsky, and we are talking about the retreat that we are co-hosting together in April 4th through 8th in Asheville. And it's going to be so special. Victoria and I were connected through a mutual friend. She's been on the podcast before and she goes deep into her story. So I will link that episode below and I really recommend you check it out. And we immediately connected over our shared passions and sense of purpose and intentions in this life. The work that we both do individually is so connected and intertwined, and so we can't wait to come together and create this really special retreat. It is called the Roots of Renewal Retreat and is a retreat to reconnect with your magic. Our intention with this retreat is to bring together a community of women to realign with our intuition for a profound journey of self-discovery, renew our connection to community and nature, recommit to our path, and embrace new beginnings. In today's episode, we are talking about our connection to nature, our connection to our intuition, our connection with community, and our journeys and stories with all of these topics. And of course, we are going deep into our intention with this retreat, what it will be like, what it will feel like, who's it for, and why we're doing it. There's so much more I could say, but we say a lot of it in the episode, so let's get right into it. Okay, everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited to have Victoria on to talk about the Roots of Renewal retreat we're co-hosting together in April in Asheville. So much of the disconnection many of us are feeling today is rooted in our disconnection to nature, and we are so passionate about reconnecting to nature. And so today we're going to explore our connection to nature and intuition and community as a way to reconnect to ourselves and why we are bringing that into our experience during this retreat. I did a full podcast with Victoria about her story, and it is one of my favorites, so I will link that below. But Victoria, why don't you give everyone a brief introduction or summary about who you are and what you do?
Thanks so much for having me on again. I'm so excited to be here to have this conversation with you. And I'm even more so excited to be collaborating with you on this Roots of Renewal retreat, which we'll get into. I'm an energy healer and I'm an intuitive guide, as well as I would call myself a community curator. I love connecting people together, like-minded individuals around having opening and vibrant life experiences. So I'm really excited to be a part of this conversation around, nature and our all of our connection to nature. We are nature, and when we really think about it, we're part of the oneness of all things, and also how intuition itself, like how, at least in my own experience, I've connected so deeply through my own intuitive senses to the natural world, as well as through community, meeting and working with and practicing living right with others in community has been such a powerful part of my, and like fundamental almost part of my own spiritual path. So I have a very interesting background that you can listen to on the other podcast, but at the same time, looking at this year 2024, I am really passionate about bringing earth-based medicines to others in the way that earth-based medicines have helped me. And when I say earth-based medicines, it could be standing outside in a field, breathing in the air. It could be dipping yourself into into a river or a wild hot springs. It could be plant medicines. It could be herbs, which we'll talk about also with our joint passion for herbalism. So really bringing that into the retreats that I'm hosting this year, and especially excited about the one that Rachel and I will be hosting together.
It's truly a dream come true to host a retreat and to do one with you. And I am in awe of how when you put out the energy of what you are passionate about, you find the people who are passionate about the same things, because we really have so much in common. Our message and intention with our businesses and our lives are so aligned, and that's what makes this extra powerful and magical. I think one of our main commonalities is this connection to intuition and nature. And I know that my intuition led me back to nature time and time again, especially when I was at my lowest moments, when I was very alone and didn't have that community. I was brought to nature, and it brought me back to myself. And I think that so much healing can be found in nature. And we both love herbalism. We both love astrology and cyclical living. So I think we should talk a little bit about that, because I know that's something that we both are going to be bringing into the retreat that we're holding together.
I find myself in a space where almost like putting a definition to my spiritual practice is really difficult, if not like completely impossible. What I see is that my spirituality and my practice in general is rooted in all that is nature. Describe it maybe as earth-based spirituality or nature-based spirituality. And because I personally, I grew up Jewish, but not religious, more cultural. And I never had that religious connection until I found myself on my spiritual path and in spaces of nature that revived me, that revitalized me, that nurtured me, that guided me. All of those things really coming down to like my connection to earth and its medicines. So that's kind of how I describe like my own spirituality is nature-based. Just like many of us, I think starting in the beginning of our lives, like if we're given the opportunity to be outside as children, playing outside and, in the creeks with the frogs, with the fireflies, in forests, wherever it is that you kind of grew up. I grew up in kind of suburban and somewhat rural Ohio, where it was just such beautiful nature, especially in the summer. So I've always had an affinity with just being outside and enjoying the sun and counting the clouds and hanging out with my little friends in nature. I was spent the majority of my childhood outside. And so this like affinity and connection to animals has been there since the beginning of my life. And then as I grew up and kind of maybe disconnected a little bit more from being regularly outside in nature, exploring, I kind of lost a lot of that. It took me many, many years to come back to actually spending time outside recreationally. And probably again, in my late 20s, I had a relationship with someone that had grown up camping and being out, sleeping outside in nature and climbing mountains and things. He brought me into that world. So that like connection to mountains, connection to sleeping under the stars is relatively new for me, just over the last decade or just over. So it's brought me back to this time now where I'm over the last several years have been moving through my own spiritual awakening and my own spiritual journey. And now it's almost like that is medicine that I need always. I cannot live without being outside. And actually just recently I live in the Boulder area and there were like sub-zero, -10, -15 degree weather just for a short amount of time. And it was agony for me because I really could not spend any time outside. And so that's where I've come to this place of like, not only is it something that we are grown up in and we are part of this natural world, sometimes we have to come back and remember like who we are through that. And now being in nature is part of my my daily experience. I always, spend a little bit of time at least breathing or looking out toward the sun or staring at the stars or the moon at some point every day, because it is my medicine. Yeah. Do you feel that as well? Just it being like this, like, I don't know, I see it as a medicine quality.
Absolutely. And nature-based spirituality, I've never heard that phrase. I don't know if you made it up, but I love it. And I'm going to take that on because that is 100% me. I was also raised Jewish, fairly religious, but I never felt that deep spirituality, that deep connection to something outside of myself, that deep, like, life-giving essence until I embrace nature in that way. And all the moments I can think about where I've felt that have all been in nature. And I also, growing up, was always playing outside, playing make believe in the trees, and I loved it. And then I had a short time span in my life where I was disconnected from that, and fairly young, I found my way back there, and that was my saving grace. Having that connection to nature and committing to that connection to nature is what saved me time and time again. And I've always sought that out intuitively, just have known that I need that, which I'm so grateful for.
I don't know. I've noticed it in myself, again, being an intuitive and an energy healer, like when my energy feels off or imbalanced. And there are just times where I know that there have been like stretches of times, maybe that's a few days or a few weeks or even months, where I have not gotten outside to really sit and connect to nature. And and it's almost like a little antenna that goes up for me that goes like, oh, I need to get back. I need to get back. I need to put my feet into a river. I need to climb, a mountain and breathe the air, something like that, where, and without it, literally I feel off. So there's definitely something about, I know that there's research out there that talks about, grounding and like the actual act of putting your feet into the ground as a very healing medicine for anxiety, for depression, for so many, physical, mental, and emotional ailments. And there's likely many studies out there that talk about the medicine of nature in that way. But I often feel like off when I'm not in it. So yeah, I hear you about like finding yourself back there in that space.
I
Mm-hmm.
feel the same way. And not only that, also embracing the cycles and shifts in energy that nature brings to us, whether it's the seasons, whether it's an astrological shift, whether it's just something happening in the weather. We are so connected to that, and learning how to lean into that and work with that energy has also changed my life and has helped me connect more to my own cycles and to work with the seasons and the shifts and everything that's happening around us.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more, Rachel, about that for you, your experience coming into the cyclical nature of ourselves and in the similar rhythm or similar fashion as nature.
I could say a lot about this because I grew up in New York and I hated the winters. I hated the cold. And so as soon as I could, I did whatever I could to avoid the cold. I spent a lot of time traveling to warm places. When I was in college, I studied abroad 3 times. And then when I graduated, I moved to Hawaii and then I moved to California. I was just chasing an endless summer. And part of that, what I've learned later on, was this attachment to this endless summer inside of myself, this endless doing and succeeding and being productive, and this fear of slowing down. And I completely burnt myself out. I mean, it definitely contributed to what I went through with my eating disorder, which I've talked about in past podcasts, if anyone's curious about that story. But embracing the winter inside of myself was so important. And I even got to the point where I was like, okay, I can no longer live in a place that's always sunny. I need to embrace the external winters in order to embrace my own internal winters. So I spent some time in the UK and had a full winter, and it was so healing for me. The way that nature in the wintertime forces us to slow down and be reflective and go inwards and just be softer is medicine. Like you were saying, it's true medicine. And we need those seasons, we need those energy shifts to remind us to have those energy shifts within ourselves. We can't always be in our summer season. We have to have those winter seasons. We have to have that shedding and that letting go to have the renewal and the blossoming.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love how you just described that. And you're right. I mean, we are animals, right? When it really comes down to it. And although we are not bears and we don't hibernate underground in the winter, our bodies literally need to hibernate. Any kind of either cold weather or either just it is the changing of the seasons no matter what. I lived in San Diego for 12 years and we had almost no winter, right? But it did get chilly at night and there was always some kind of scent in the air or just the new air coming through that signified the changing of the seasons. And if you don't move with the changing of the seasons, then you're kind of going against your natural rhythms. I also, growing up in Ohio with like harsh winters, ran away from that and went to California to live, which I still, I mean, love and miss dearly. But at the same time, for me, it was the connection to my body in a way that I had never listened to her before. And once I started to listen to her, I started to notice that the moon, moved with her in a very, very deliberate and very direct way where, when the more in tune I was with my body, the more in tune my cycle was with actually the cycle of the moon, my actual menstrual cycle. So I started to really follow that in a way that that helped me come into balance, I think, with myself. And when you say the seasons as well, learning about the ancient roots or the ancient kind of traditions around the seasons as humans, for millennia, right? We have to gather, our harvests in the fall so that we can be ready for the cold, hibernation of the winter, and then coming alive again. The spring, brings the earth alive. And so we celebrate the aliveness of earth and the light of the day, as again, as our ancestors have. And then the summer is this vibrant, passionate, hot heat. And also this transformation, this fire that we move into and get into, like, a deep mode of work or being out there in the world before then we start the cycle again. And so being a part of witnessing that, whether that be within yourself, if you live in a all year round tropical space or in Antarctica or Alaska, regardless of what it is that's happening outside, it's happening within yourself as well. So no matter where you are on this earth, you can connect to the seasons, you can connect to the moon and the way that literally the earth goes around the sun and how it affects our daily lives, which is so wild to have to come back to that, right? Because we're so busy. There's so much technology. There's so many screens. There's so many indoor spaces that are cool that we can go to. And we forget that what it is that's happening outside and how much it really impacts our bodies and our beings.
Yeah. And another way that I felt that so tangibly is my intuition led me to herbalism. And when I started to get immersed in herbalism and learning about the herbs, and when I started to, for example, drink a tea or take a tincture and saw how that impacted me, saw how the plants were medicine, and I could tangibly see the results in that way, was another affirmation that nature just, it impacts us. Nature has this power over us in a really beautiful way. But I don't know if I know your origin story with herbalism, because for me, it genuinely was my intuition, which is how a lot of things unfold for me. I just started getting really obsessed with it and couldn't stop learning about it. And I took a course, and then I went to the UK to do my apprenticeship and just became more and more immersed. But how did you get into herbalism, and when did that start for you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I mean, this to even go back before I was even born, my grandmother was an herbalist. She was a homemaker, and she came from, my family's from the Soviet Union, or in the, prior to the current day Russia or Ukraine. Ukraine specifically, but I'd heard stories about this, and I remember my grandmother feeding us weird, herbs and weird like mixes of things if we were sick, and tending to our wounds in that way. And my father taught me a lot about that as well. We would go outside and look for certain weeds to put onto pussy wounds, or he would use cabbage to wrap sore muscles, that kind of thing. So I'd been around that since I was a kid. Didn't really think much of it. Tea has always been in my life. I've always loved tea, just because I'm Russian, and it's a big part of their culture. But going into my adulthood, first of all, I met a wonderful woman, a friend, in a community of, we call ourselves sister goddesses. And this woman is, there was something about her that I went right to her. She lived in LA. I lived in San Diego. We started visiting and creating a beautiful friendship together. And so she opened me up to many different things, including the herbalism program that I ended up going into. But even before that, I had been on a health journey specifically around my hormones. There was something in my intuition that told me, check your hormones. And I did a test with a functional nutritionist and saw how badly my hormones were out of whack about a year or two after getting off of birth control. Not only did my menstrual, my periods told me that something was wrong, but there was just something within me that I felt like really tired in the afternoons, just very strange energies throughout the day. So I was like, let's check this out. Ended up going on a Chinese medicine protocol with a registered or a functional nutritionist, Chinese medicine with a acupuncturist, and then like functional kind of supplements with natural medicines with a dietitian. And it changed everything for me, like energy levels and just feeling more vibrant, feeling more in tune with my body. Really shifted things in my like hormones. And then of course, being friends with this woman, she had joined a year prior, it's called the School of the Sacred Wild, run by a woman named Marisha Mirnowska. She is a green witch is what she calls herself. She's written many books on herbalism and leads a phenomenal program. It's all online and also in person if you live in the LA area. And she was in this program. I went to her house. She showed me how she made some herbal infusions. And I was like, this is so witchy and this is so powerful. And I want to learn the power of earth medicines in this way. So I joined this program and went through, it was a 9 or 10 month immersion, and everything in my life, I feel like, changed. And to this day, herbs are my number one. Every single day I drink herbs. And there's certain ones that you kind of fall in love with, and certain ones that your body almost like knows that it needs, like the minerals and the vitamins and the actions that they have for whatever it is that you're going through. It's such a powerful tool. And it connected me so deeply to the earth. Number one, because of drinking it and feeling that, the difference in my body, but also knowing where it comes from, how to sustainably source and ethically source your herbs, working not only with ingestible herbs, but creating tinctures, creating different types of herbal medicines, and then with herbal smokes as well as a part of sacred ceremony or sacred practice. So we went through an entire year-long apprenticeship. My partner would laugh if I said this, but I have this ridiculous amount of of little jars with 75 herbs or something in our kitchen. We cannot find a good place to put it but I need it out all the time because I need to look at my herbs. I need to like remember the medicines of the earth. So that's kind of where I came into. And I'm a very much more, I think more so of a beginner than you, Rachel, because I only went through a 1-year program, but to make teas and infusions and certain types of, again, products that I can use for myself and for my friends. I often gift them to my friends. And just offer that as a part of my intuitive guidance to people as well. If I know that you're moving through, let's say, seasonal depression, or you're if I know that you're again sick or like need some, have some sort of immunity issues, like there's certain herbs that I can recommend that they try, which is just so cool. I just love it. I love and coming back to my own roots of herbalism, which is even more amazing.
And what I'm so passionate about with herbalism and really all the work I do is it being actionable and digestible, something that people can actually implement into their lives right now. It's not about knowing all the things or being some advanced herbalist. It's about having tools to really integrate into your life right now that can serve you personally and where you're at and what you need and who you are. That's the key, I think. And that's the same with intuition as well, because I think people can get intimidated by the word intuition and feel like it's unapproachable or maybe too woo-woo, too spiritual, or they just don't understand how to embody it. There can be a lot of fear in that as well. And so learning how to listen to and trust and strengthen and follow through on what our intuition is telling us, I mean, that's changed my life, and it's what I am so passionate about bringing to the world.
Yes, that practical, approach. And again, like just like any other tool, whether that be herbs, whether that be a pendulum, whether that be, some sort of breathing practice, these are all tools, right, that we can reach into, like this toolbox that we create for ourselves and pull it out when it is that we need it. Right. I mean, maybe you wouldn't call intuition a tool per se. It is something that is innate within you. It's a language. It's a conversation and communication, perhaps with yourself, perhaps with the divine, with your inner wisdom, whatever you want to call it. And it's sort of there always. Right. And I feel like my intuition tells me, and at least I have the language and clear communication with my own intuition in a way that I will know when it points me to the right tools that I need, at least in that moment.
Absolutely. Something that we're going to be talking a lot about at this retreat is how to connect to your intuition, how to foster that connection and strengthen it and really trust it and lean on it. I have learned that intuition can show up really differently for everyone. So it's not one cookie cutter, clear cut answer. It's really about learning who you are and how that shows up for you. One way I bring this into the world is through human design. That's been something that has changed my life, and I'm so passionate about it and love teaching to others. If you don't know what human design is, it's in the same family as astrology in the sense that you have all your birth info and you get this chart about yourself, and it's really the energetic blueprint of who you came here to be. Another definition I've heard that I love is it's the science of individuation, because there is a lot of science behind it, and it's also about being the most you version of yourself you possibly can be, the most authentic. We're all so unique and individual, and learning how to lean into that and embrace that and trust that. And there's a part of your human design chart that speaks to how your intuition shows up for you. And so learning how to integrate that into your life can help that connection to your intuition grow.
Yeah, and for me specifically, and I love Rachel and her human design encyclopedia, like knowledge and encyclopedia, because even just hearing her speak about this and reconnecting to how my intuition speaks to me, which is, my authority is my sacral authority is how I listen. And it makes so much sense. Like gut, sacral authority means that like you listen to that gut response. It's like the automatic, like yes or no in your body. And that's so interesting that like herbalism for me, astrology for me, all of these things, all these tools move through not only like my energy, but also my body. So like clearing up my gut and like my hormones have helped me tune into that, that knowing a little bit even deeper. And I love this topic, and I love how many amazing practices there are to connect you to your intuition. There's so many people that say, and I've heard this just a few days ago. Somebody that read one of my newsletters wrote back to me and said, I know that my intuition's there, but I just like can't hear it. I've lost it. It's gone, And in actuality, it's like, is it actually gone, or is my connection to myself? Is there a barrier there, between me and my connection to self in some way? So there's so many questions that we can ask ourselves when we feel like we're not hearing it, or we're making all the wrong choices, or we keep seeing those repeating cycles in our lives. And it's like, oh, why didn't I listen to myself when I thought of that thing, or when I had that vision, I didn't act on it. Really it comes down to where you are in on your path and what lessons you're, learning in this moment. But I feel, the daily practice, we're going to share a lot again at this retreat, but more about practical ways to not only tune in, but also to trust, and then to take action out in the world to show yourself and to show the universe that you're listening. That is like where the key really is. It's trusting and then taking action.
For me, it's a daily practice, and my authority in human design is emotional. So for me, it does take some slowing down and listening. And emotional authority means that you need to wait for clarity. You need to give it some time to really feel through all your emotions and make sure that what you felt initially still holds true, let's say a day later. So for me, listening to my intuition is about acknowledging that initial gut response, sitting with it, really processing it, journaling about it, talking about it, and then checking in on it as it integrates. And I do really feel it moving through my body, but then it is about taking the action. It is about embodying what my intuition has told me, whether that's something I need to do or say or be or let go of. The embodiment piece is so important, because not only is it signaling to the universe that you're listening and you're trusting, but it's also signaling to yourself that you trust yourself, that you love yourself, that you are here for yourself, that you want to take care of yourself. And so then your intuition will continue to send you the information you need, and you'll continue to be able to hear it louder and louder.
There's one thing when you're working with your own intuition and doing your own thing in the privacy of your own home, and when you're doing your own kind of spiritual and embodied or practice by yourself. But I think that there's something, a whole nother level that's added when you're working with another person. So it could just be you in communication with a friend or with a partner. It could be you in a crowd of people. It could be, in my example, my work in the world started with my energy healing training. So I started doing Reiki in 2020, and that opened me up to having to trust my intuition so deeply, because I was working with somebody else and their energy. When I do Reiki, when I do energy work, I don't even call it Reiki anymore, because it's, yes, I use the symbols and it's sort of the framework that I learned in Reiki, but it's evolved into something much more authentic to my own energetic blueprint, perhaps. But when I do this work, I will see visions. I will feel sensations in my body. I will receive downloads while working with someone else, while I'm in their energetic field. And sometimes I receive messages that make absolutely no logical sense. But I'm sitting there in front of someone, and it's my responsibility as the healer or the intuitive that somebody's coming to me for that those offerings or those services. It's my responsibility to share what it is that I receive. It's never my choice. It's not my choice, in terms of like, oh, I received some information, but like, I'm not going to share it. It's my responsibility to share it. So that's been like this whole journey of me trusting my own intuition, is when I'm working with other people and I receive a message and I'm like, oh my gosh, what does that mean? Is this person even going to know what it means? But I have to trust that it is a message that must be revealed or must be shared. And so that has very much strengthened my own intuition, and also my own ability to connect with others and to turn on and off my gifts. I can do that because it's my choice. I either allow it in or not, right? And so that's allowed me to not only trust it, but also guard my gifts, and guard my abilities to turn it on and off when it is that I need it. Does that resonate with you, or do you have any experiences working with others where oh, I've just tuned into something and I have to trust that?
Absolutely. It happens all the time it's happened in the past when I've taught yoga classes. It happens now when I'm doing one-on-one sessions with people, even when I'm talking to friends. I've found that sometimes something will come out of my mouth and I've just been like, yeah, that needed to be said. And it's just about trusting and leaning into that. And again, for me, a lot of it comes back to human design and knowing how our energy works in other ways. Like I know a lot of my wisdom and knowledge comes through my throat, and that shows up differently for different people. So it's about knowing yourself and trusting yourself, and life will present us with the experiences that we need to lean into that trust and strengthen that connection. And for me, that has shown up a lot with my work with other people.
Yeah, definitely. And using those tools, like you said, yoga and human design. And for me, it's astrology and tools of divination, tools of connecting to spirit in ways that, again, I feel it within myself, and then I use these tools or for myself or for others in order to tap into the greater wisdom, like greater knowing, and making sense of it in the physical world, right? It's the trusting of, and then interpretation of this intuitive information or this download or however you want to call it, and then being able to share it through a framework, which for me, it's energy and astrology. I really love these tools that allow us to tap in deeper and allow us to interpret in ways that we can understand, whether that be the stars or, again, some sort of other framework, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why, I mean, so much of it comes back to intuition because you use your intuition to guide you to the right tools for you. Everyone resonates with different things and needs different things. And our intuition can lead us to the right things for us, the right teachers, the right experiences, and then put that into the world, because spirituality is not just about the spirit or being in the clouds. It's about being a human, having a spiritual experience, and really grounding. And that's another reason why utilizing nature is so important, because it continues to ground spirituality into this world. And we need that. We need to remember that that is the most important piece, is to bring it into our life every day.
Spiritual, one of the other topics that we wanted to talk about in terms of the importance of not only connecting to nature, but also connecting to our own intuitions, is doing it in community in some way. And so I find that so many of us, as we're discovering ourselves in new ways, as we're transitioning and maybe transforming in some way, as we come into our more authentic self, maybe become spiritual in some way, in ways that we haven't been in other parts of our lives, it could often bring us to this space of loneliness, of feeling really alone and kind of weird, because your inner world is changing at a rapid pace, and compared to what it is that you're seeing in the outside world, there likely is a dissonance, especially again, the beginning of the journey. I'm still at that point where I'm evolving very much so in my awareness and consciousness and in my energy. And sometimes what I see and what I feel outside of myself, there's a little bit of a difference. So it's not like it ever ends per se, but regardless, having community to learn with and to practice with and to feel safe with and to show up fully as yourself is so fundamental and so key in the practice of developing your intuition, or just developing yourself in your newfound spirituality. Or I don't want to say that everyone's like new to it, right? But especially in the beginning, I will say, like for me, it was when I got trained in Reiki, I found this amazing community of total, I mean, it was like, I thought I was weird, right? But it was like, had nothing to do with weirdness. Everybody is weird, right? But people that are connected to themselves and to their to the energies, to nature, to really coming back to ancient ways of being, we have to find one another, because otherwise it's a really long and lonely road without it. Relating in community, really connecting to each other, coming back to community. That is our way, really. It is the way of healing on this planet at this time. We can do so much work on ourselves by ourselves, but we can take it to levels and spaces and opportunities that we would have never imagined when we heal and when we relate and receive the mirroring of others in community. It's something that I'm still like very much in my own like early stages of creating that within my own life. And of course, coming to spaces where people are intentional and conscious and want to come and learn and develop is so powerful, again, for anybody that's on that path. That's my original experience of community. It's evolving over time, but I would love to hear, Rachel, what your connection is to community and what it means to you, how it impacts the work that you do.
I feel like it's the piece to the puzzle that if it's missing, nothing else can come into place.
Yeah.
I spent so much of my life by myself and thinking that I had to do everything by myself and kind of keeping people at an arm's distance. And I had a sense of community and like through my yoga and other things I did, but I wasn't allowing myself to fully show up as myself, to be vulnerable and confident in myself and let people in and let people see me fully. And we need that now more than ever. So many of us feel alone and isolated and disconnected, and that is something that I'm still finding my community in certain ways, and it's become such a core part of what I feel is my purpose here, because is to cultivate this sense of community, because we need it. We need each other. We can't do this alone, and not just in the spirituality sense, but just this life. Like, we can't do it alone. And to have spaces where people not only understanding, like I said, the spirituality aspect and all these different alternative things that we love, but also just people who are open-minded and open-hearted and wanting to embrace themselves, wanting to be authentic and intentional and compassionate with themselves and each other. Those are the spaces we need. Yeah. And I know that that's what I need. I know that's what I want to create. And I know that that's what the world needs.
And there's something about in this journey of becoming our most authentic selves, or our journey coming home to ourselves, when we know that we're evolving, when we know that we're changing, which we all are all the time, right? But when we're super uber aware of it, there's something about having that reflected back to us by being seen by other people in that authentic truth that we have. And so I will say, to this day, and this was a big lesson for me on my own path, is that I no longer can be a part of communities, or even in just relationships with people that leave it at the surface level. I really, truly, in my deepest yearning, want to be seen for my truest self. So if I have to mask anything, if I have to quiet down a part of myself, if I have to like sit and listen and kind of smile and be quiet while something is happening around me, then I literally remove myself from the situation, or remove myself from a conversation, because I no longer want to be a part of communities where freedom and love and openness and trust is not like the basic like foundation of that authentic kind of connection and relating. So that's what I hope to and are really bringing into my own practice and the work that I offer and the communities that I create is bringing all of that sense of full safety and trust to be exactly who you are. And we as the receivers there will, receive that with open arms. I think that's so huge. And that's something that I know was very much missing for me for the majority of my life, is being welcomed into intentional spaces for whether that be just connection or for healing or for learning. There were probably less than 5, counting on one hand, times in my life where I felt like truly able to be fully myself. And number one, I didn't really know who I was for the majority of my life. But through my own process of becoming more of my authentic self, tuning into my intuition, embracing my intuitive and spiritual and psychic gifts, and standing for something greater. Now it's a need for me is to be able to be with others that see me in my fullest possibility and my fullest potential. And that's what I want to create with this community that we're creating with Roots of Renewal, and also just in the communities I'm creating here locally and in Boulder and online through my membership. And that's where it's like, show up exactly how you are. The only requisite or prerequisite is that you show up. Like, that is number one, that you show up. And number two is that you show up fully as your authentic self, even if you're a total mess today, even if you are in full of rage, and feeling the rage of all the women that came before you. Maybe that's in feel pure joy and just beaming of love. I want to see all of it. I want to see all of you, because there's a difference. There's a difference in like the vibration of when people come to a space completely closed-hearted and guarded versus completely open in themselves. And that's what I hope to create with Roots of Renewal with Rachel in Asheville in April, is this space where we can come to the space fully and authentically ourselves and be embraced in all parts of that.
The truth is, the deeper that we go with ourselves, the deeper we can go with others. But that becomes so much easier when we are around people who are encouraging us to go deep and encouraging us to be ourselves and show up and just be authentic and vulnerable, and who are willing to do the same with themselves.
Yes.
And this retreat is really for the people who just want to feel safe to be themselves. Yes. To be completely and totally themselves, whatever is happening, whatever they are experiencing, however you are, just like you said, just show up. And that's perfect. That's exactly enough.
It is enough. And it's a beautiful space to create for people, especially those that have not had those experiences where they feel kind of like, outsider, or they don't belong. There's something about there. I forget if it was a study, but I know Brene Brown has talked about this, idea about, children who are, not feeling safe at home, where they have, maybe traumatic upbringings, or just like, chaos in their house. When they come to a learning environment, it's very difficult for children to learn when they have this shield, over their heart. And it's found, in studies and research that it's much more difficult for children that are, having issues at home to learn. And I feel like that extends very much so to the adult population as well. When we feel like we can fully let our guard down, when we can reveal ourselves at our truest and even most vulnerable parts, that's when we get to not only be seen and feel safe in who we are, but that's also when we can absorb the wisdom or the information or the channeling, right? That's happening, or the vibrations that are happening around us. Only in those spaces can that level of learning actually occur. And so that is 100%. I love what you said about also just honesty. Like, being honest with yourself allows you to be so open and so clear and able to be received from others as well. Because if you're not honest with yourself and you're kind of ignoring the parts of yourself that are kind of icky or dark or shadowy, and not sharing that with others, again, in a safe container, in a safe community, then you're robbing yourself of the experience of true connection and true intimacy with others.
It can be scary to show up to these kinds of spaces by yourself. If you're someone who is interested in a retreat like this but would scared to go by yourself, I urge you that that's the perfect way to come. I know that I've done so many things by myself, and those have been the times when I've met some of the most amazing people and had some of the most amazing experiences. And there also, if you have a friend and that feels like something that would bond you guys, that's amazing to come together as well. But it's really just a space where you can feel totally and completely free. And I urge you to listen to your intuition and be brave and do the thing that you feel called to do, no matter how scary it may be.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Yes. I mean, my most liberating and most freeing experiences have been with myself, for myself fully, whether that be retreats or solo trips by myself, or doing a boudoir photo shoot by myself, for myself. Those have been my most freeing and liberating and confidence boosting experiences. So yes, highly recommend, especially if you're looking for community, to seek out safe and powerful spaces that allow you to show up authentically as yourself, and also just showing up open with no expectations, right? That's the best way to go into these types of solo experience or any kind of retreat type of experience, is to like let judgments and expectations, leave that at the door as you walk in. That's where the magic really flows in, when you receive something that you did not even expect. And so leave those expectations at the door anyway, and highly recommend traveling solo and going on retreats, on your own.
Traveling solo has changed my life in so many ways. And you will have an opportunity to do a human design reading with me beforehand and be part of Victoria's membership. And we're going to have a group chat and do a little group Zoom beforehand. So you will have some foundation of knowledge about who you're meeting, what you're getting into, and what the energy is like, which I know always helps me feel more held in that kind of space.
So the website is rootsofrenewal.co. Again, the whole idea of this is coming back to ourselves, right? Rooting within ourselves, within our bodies, within our mind, our spirit, and coming to this spring season in 2024. So this is happening right before the spring equinox and under the new moon solar eclipse, which is going to be an electrifying and highly potent kind of time astrologically, to not only usher in the new season, but really renew your relationship to yourself. So this is all about deepening our sense of self discovery and self connection. Also, again, as we've been talking, really opening our hearts to new levels of intimacy and connection with others. Of course, with the nature experiences that we have planned, there's going to be a massive sense of just clarity and renewal, as well as whatever it is that you need that nature will give to you, because it gives so many gifts, as well as, of course, practical tools around human design, around taking intuition and making that into actionable steps, as well as really becoming an herbalist, whether that be in like the apprenticeship and very beginner level like me, or something more in depth, where you'll learn amazing tools around herbalism from Rachel. And we're going to bring in past, present, and future, and by the end, hoping that you'll walk away with a really clear vision of where it is that you're going in the future.
We're going to be doing yoga every day, journaling, reflection circles, community gatherings, hiking. There's going to be a lot of tools that we're integrating that we're so excited about. But at the root of it all is connecting to yourself, your intuition, connecting to nature, and connecting to community. And coming away from this experience with a renewed sense of self and confidence and intention on what you are here to do, who you're here to be, and how to embody that in your life.
Yes. And we are so fully committed, the two of us, as intuitives, as herbalists, as healers in several different ways. We are really committed to fully witnessing the women that sit around us in circle, that co-create this community with us, and help you see your radiance, help you see your intuitive magic, that you can bring with you into the world. And we really promise to create this space where you take these experiences and move them into your daily life in a way that's not just like, you go to a retreat and then you have this experience and then it's done. We're going to be giving you really amazing tools and practices that you can take with you into your daily life and to put back into your toolbox that you can reach into and grab when you need it in your life. We're so excited to create this space and offer all of our wisdom and that we've been given from the women and men, before us, from the teachers that have taught us, and along with and blended with our own intuitive sparks and authentic magic that we offer to the world. I'm beyond excited and with what's going to come from this. I know that I'm already feeling the energy of it, and I feel the women that are on their way that are coming. So if this at all resonates, we'd be happy. Rachel and I would be happy to share any more information or answer any questions specific to your journey.
Absolutely. Please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We are both so devoted to making this experience absolute magic and showing up in the ways that you need us to. And if there's any inkling in your heart and in your mind that this could serve you in some way, please just reach out to us. All our information will be linked below. And we just would be honored to even talk to you about it.
Yeah. And not to mention, it's in Asheville, which of course Rachel's there, so she knows the magic of that land. This is going to be my first time ever going to Asheville, which I am like, it's been calling me in my dreams. and so many things have pointed to this space of like, just the mountains and the art and the air that's there. And the house that we have is so amazing. And an amazing vegan chef is going to be providing us daily meals. And there's so many other parts of it. Rejuvenation, stepping away from your daily life and really stepping into a paradise and a sanctuary of nature and being held and seen fully by a group of amazing, like-minded and powerful women.
So living intuitively wild means living dedicated to your true authentic self no matter what. And I tend to always ask my guests at the end how they live intuitively wild. So maybe our version of this is, how do you intend to help others live intuitively wild through this retreat?
Oh, so good. Intuitively wild. There's so many like amazing, just almost like visions and images that come through when I think about being intuitively wild. And part of that is being in nature. I mean, under, let's say, a full moon, or in this case, it'll be a new moon, howling at the moon, wild, like wild women, right? Really rooted in our own bodies, really connected to our physical bodies, as well as this deep connection to our spiritual self. So while being connected through the channel of, intuition through our chakras, from the above, we're also connected and deeply grounded through our feet, through the herbs, through the medicines of nature, into the earth. As well, which is, I think, a really powerful way to see it. So I'm so excited to just share, again, different tools and different practices and ways of relating to ourselves in that may be completely new to you, might be completely new to your way of living, that you can take with you into your career, into your purpose, into your relationships, into your family, all of those things. Connecting intuitively wild. I just love thinking about wild women out in nature. We're going to do a lot of movement outside, so get ready for that too.
And I feel like I want to help people live intuitively wild through this retreat by, one, me showing up myself fully authentic and confident and intuitively wild, and two, empowering others to do the same, really encouraging people to be exactly who they are and to learn who they are and be who they are with confidence, and providing the tools to do that, the insights, the learning, and just holding the space for that. Being the energy that affirms to everyone who's at the retreat, you are perfect exactly as you are. You are enough exactly as you are. And we need you exactly as you are in this world.
Yes, 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 yes.
So thank you all so much for being here and for listening. Again, if you have any questions about the retreat, please reach out to either one of us. And we can't wait to connect with you all soon. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Intuitively Wild, the podcast. I hope it helped deepen your connection to yourself, sparked some insights, and inspired you to live intuitively wild. If you enjoyed this podcast, it would mean so much to me if you would share it with others and leave a rating and review. And please reach out to me. I would love to connect with you. I will see you next time for more magic.